They gon' love me for my ambition.
Woo! Shout out to everybody out there in the world listening right now. This is Sound. Welcome to CAP, the Club Ambition Podcast, CA Podcast. I'm your weekly host, episode 55. And we got the executive producer in the building. You know, half of the Chubb corner, we're down one.
We fired the other one.
Erlen, I don't know what's going on with Erlen. He's on a trip. Something's going on. You know, pray he has a safe travels. You know, he almost made it here, though. He tried to, right? I guess. I don't know.
Let's not get into that one, bro. Let's leave it at that.
Listen, man, but like I always say, especially when we have a guest in the building, in the studio, on the podcast, it's for a special reason. We're known, arguably, obviously, as the number one Rhode Island, you know, podcast, platform, whatever you want to say. But it's for a reason, because of the people that come into this building and actually are being interviewed are people that I respect and definitely have made an impact in the culture. And they might have definitely even made an impact locally. But even if they haven't, no matter what, they're always, you know, so far, I think every single guest has been from Rhode Island. You know, whether it's purposely or not purposely, they're from Rhode Island. Providence, Rhode Island, or Rhode Island in general, representing the smallest state in the country. But reiterating the thing that I always state all the time, we have the biggest creative hearts, the biggest, you know, hearts in artistry come from here, the smallest state in the country, Rhode Island. And sitting, I sound like Bruce Buffer real quick, like I'm doing like a ring announcement. Standing to the right of me, sitting to the right of me, we have someone that has made a lot of influence and a lot of influential designs in culture when it comes to sneaker, apparel, everything that has been happening right now, especially coming out of specifically Bodega, the house of Bodega based out of Boston, Massachusetts, a company that, you know, has had a lot of success, but the impact that has been recognized, I would say, amongst the most has been since this man has stepped into the building, and he's been doing a lot of stuff over there, and we're honored to have him here. A lot of people's favorite designer, or if you might not know, it might be your designer's favorite designer on the low. You know what I'm saying?
Boy.
He doesn't say it, but I'll say it for him.
Yeah.
We have him in the building. It's Drew White.
What's happening? Thank you for having me, man.
No problem, man. We're excited, you know, to get you in here. What, his camera?
Focus.
Want me to focus it real quick? All right.
Yeah.
Let's start from the beginning. A lot of people might not know, and then if they do know, even better. You know, they know, oh, Drew, they've heard about you, but they might not realize he is from Rhode Island. But bring it back to your actual start. Were you born here? Where were you born? What was the city? What was the hospital? If you remember all that, like what was the whole breakdown of Drew's Rhode Island history?
So I was born in Providence, Rhode Island, women and infants.
Yep, same here.
Spent most of my time growing up in East Providence specifically.
Okay.
Lived in different areas with family. Lived, you know, from EP to Pawtucket, Ave in Pawtucket, near like Murphy's Liquors over there, and then like River Ave, kind of Smith Hill, Elm Grove area in Providence, and then to be back in EP for like school pretty much, and that's ultimately where, you know, my mom stayed, and so I really grew up in EP, been in Rhode Island like all my life.
What was the school? What was like your high school, your middle school? Everything was EP?
Yeah, it was all EP. So it was like going back to elementary, it was like Meadowcrest, which that school shut down a few years in. And then I went to a different school, Waldington. And then I went to like Riverside Middle School to ultimately go to EP.
EP High School?
EP High.
How was that? How was your experience there?
EP High was smooth. At the time I was there, it was the biggest high school. I don't know if it still is, but it was the biggest high school in Rhode Island at that time.
Really?
And I think it was like 21 or 2,200 students total. Yeah.
Okay.
And a lot of interesting experiences in EP, but I have like a core, just like group of friends that I'm still cool with to this day that just had a lot of impact on me, I think, growing up. It's also like, it was very diverse in a way. Like, I really feel like EP has like the full spectrum of, you know, from like, I don't know, what people would consider like like poor white trash all the way to like the rich Vineyard Vines wearing kids to like and everything in between. Obviously like Portuguese, Cape Verdean, some Nigerian folks in there, like Dominicans. It's like a lot of like just how you would imagine it being right outside of Providence. So Providence is very much the most diverse place in the state, and you know there's some people that like crossed over the bridge and settled on the other side, and so I feel like I definitely had exposure to a lot of different experiences through just I guess what made up the student body over there. But
and did you last the entire years? Did you graduate all your full years? Was it 4 years over there?
Yeah, I was there for 4 years. Like, you know, like played baseball.
Oh, really?
For like a year or two,
You
my
on the
first
EP
year or
team?
two, and then I got like on EP High. I played baseball, basketball, and football like my whole life. So that's how I met a lot of people, even before going to EP. Like just from different areas around Rhode Island in general through sports. And then going to EP was like, I think freshman year I played baseball, and then like after that I got my license, I got a job, and I was not like pursuing sports like that anymore. I used to be like obsessed with sports, like growing up, like ESPN, like I would watch the reruns. You know how it would play all morning? Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right before school, right before class, always playing early in the morning.
So heavy into sports and stuff. And I feel like EP, that's like how it was. It was like either you were like nice at sports, good at school, got fly, or like was a troublemaker. That was like the or like a mix of those things, kind of. And yeah, I wouldn't change it. I had a lot of great experiences and people that I still am tight with. You know?
Did you have like a stereotypical like, were you good in baseball and you got like a baseball scholarship? Like, what was your? Did you end up going to college after? What was your journey of that? Did it include the sports journey or did
no?
The
sports thing cut off like after 9th grade. Got my permit. Got a like 10th grade. I didn't have a job, but just was getting into a whole bunch of extra, you know, girl. That's when like different things get on your radar, you know. And I think I ended up going to school in Boston. I went to Suffolk University, and initially I went into school pretty undecided on what I wanted to do, and then I just sort of started focusing on marketing. Or like marketing is what I chose because it was like a broad sort of concentration. Like it didn't push me in one specific direction. Lane, So yeah, I ended up in Boston, but I had like mad ties at URI just because everyone I went to high school with, everyone from Providence that I knew, family members, et cetera, et cetera. So I spent some time out there like as well, like doing things out there, being a part of programming out there. Like a bunch of my boys were in Bond, and like so whenever they had like fashion shows and different things, I would get involved. But
that's dope.
Yeah, that's kind of how the school thing
So
went.
then, okay, so you did do marketing, which is pretty cool because obviously looking at you now, it kind of makes sense. Even though, was that the plan? Like, did you have what was your dream growing up? Did you have like, Mom, I want to be this, or was it like Mom was telling you you got to be this? Like, what was your experience with that growing up when your parents and like your actual end goal?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, no, it was not what I was trying to be when when you're like playing like youth sports, you think you're gonna be a professional athlete, you know, until like you stop growing. Yeah, like something happens where it's like you gotta be realistic with yourself. And I think that's like what was happening going to high school in general, and just like being involved in different things, different friend groups. I kind of was like, I'm not like the sports thing. It's just like not realistic, right? And then, you know, everyone's like, I don't know. My mom didn't go to college. She had me when she was 17, so like she didn't necessarily go to college. She kind of like sacrificed her pursuing her career in college to have me. And so it's like, I don't know, I just thought business was the thing I was supposed to do, kind of. And then I found marketing was just the broadest lane. Like it was like marketing or like management. And I was like, let me do marketing, and I'm also gonna like do a minor in like entrepreneurship. So I just like, you know, learn how to start my own thing, maybe if that's something I want to do. And really it wasn't until I was actually at Suffolk, spent time there, and then got the internship over at Bodega, and things just like, I kind of like solidified my path after that point. It was kind of wide open.
Wow.
Up until then. I was just like, I was like a good student too, so school wasn't hard. So I was like getting good grade. Like that wasn't a struggle, you know, but it was definitely like a bit challenging to figure out exactly where I wanted to sit in terms of like my career at that time.
Yeah. So it was an internship. So does that mean, so you were at Suffolk, and then in my mind, I'm putting it, you can correct me, but I'm looking at it like maybe what we were looking at multiple internships, because I went to URI College of Business, and out there they definitely had opportunities of like different internships. So they even had, what was it, like a career day? What is that called?
Yeah,
I think it's career day, right? When they
Yeah.
have like a fair,
Yeah.
like all these businesses.
Yeah, and the quad and shit.
Yeah,
they
you get to
recruit you.
you get to be like, oh, we want to get an internship here. What was your like introduction into that internship that led you now becoming, part of the full on Bodega team?
I would say my introduction to the internship was like, going into my junior year of college, there was a marketing course where you didn't have to go to class at all, and you just could, if you landed an internship and got it approved, you would get full credit. And you would just have to show up there like once a week and do paperwork behind it, to justify like what you were actually doing with your time over there. And
That's dope.
at that time, my whole thing going into college, it was just, I had like a skewed, like I was going to school for business, but I really didn't want to wear a suit. Like that was really my goal. Like I just wanted to like work in an environment where I could be comfortable and really be myself. And I was never into dressing up like that. Like it always made me uncomfortable. Like hard bottom shit. Like I hated it. And so that was an element of it. So when I was like thinking about internships, like I'm heavy into sneakers at this point. I'm buying sneakers. I'm like living in downtown Boston because that's where Suffolk's at. And I'm like, man, what could I figure out from here and to get this internship done? And I had applied to like Bodega, Concepts, and Society, which was a part of Karma Loop at the time. And Bodega's like the one that actually like reached back out and I was able to get an interview with. And in my head, I was like, wherever I get an internship at, I'm going to make them want to hire me kind of mentality going into it. I wasn't going to, obviously if I didn't like it, that's a whole nother thing. But like, as I spent more time there, I was like, nah, I'm going to like try to figure out ways to stick around. And,
kind of
make
impress
myself
them
valuable.
rather than just waste time there, because some people could take an internship and just like, I'm just here, especially for the credit. You're like, I'm just going to be here for the credit, but you were like, no, I want to actually.
And it was in my interest. Like, I always thought, like in high school, if you asked me like I thought I was gonna open like a sneaker store, and like that's not even a thing I want to necessarily do now. Like, I want to open my own something maybe one day, but not necessarily a sneaker store or like a sneaker retail operation. Cause like, I don't know. I just learned a lot along the way. But so I guess it was just like very in line with my interests. And then it was just interesting cause I was able to, find my like groove there, where now looking back, that's like, it's really my only professional, quote unquote, professional experience. In a way, where I'm actually on a payroll for a company. It's like I've never worked anywhere else since I got that internship really full time. So
that is crazy. Yeah, because I could have sworn, I thought there was something in between you and Bodega, but it was like straight right away. Wow.
Just, the college thing
and looking now, we're definitely gonna get into more now of the Bodega stuff, but it's crazy. Karma Loop, obviously, rest in peace, but man, they missed out. Shout out to the team over there at Concepts. That would have been crazy. That's crazy. It was
I love what they did. Like, I've been a fan of Concepts for a while. And same thing with Bodega. Like, I was going there before. Like, when I went to EP, one of my earliest memories was, like, when I first got my car, I skipped school. My boy, Tori, who had transferred to EP earlier that year, he was from Orchard Park in Boston. And he had told me about Bodega, and I was on the forums and stuff, so I had like read about it when it first was, but you know, in 2006, and I drove up with like a car full of my boys on like a Tuesday and skipped school or whatever, went up there, and it just so happened that like Bodega at that time, for some reason, the one day a week they were closed.
It was the day you went.
It was Tuesdays. So I wasn't even able to see it that day, you know, and I ended up going up like a year later or something and actually, I don't know, becoming just like a customer, not like a super regular or anything, but anytime I had the chance, I was like trying to go through there, trying to go through concepts, just because we don't necessarily have anything or hadn't had anything on that level out here. We've always had the Expressions, Eblins, which is cool, but it was just, it was different. It was like 100%. A different level, you know?
100%. And did they have from the beginning the whole Bodega secret door thing from the beginning?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, because for those who don't know, Bodega, popular store out of Massachusetts, sneaker retailer, streetwear, but they have an interesting entrance where you step in and it literally looks like a bodega. For those who don't know, bodega is like a corner store in Spanish translation, and you look and it's like, they probably still do it, but I remember when I was younger and the first times going, that they were like almost as if instructed, as if mandatory. The people that worked in the front, they have to treat it like they don't know what the fuck is going on. Like they're just there at a bodega working. And then if you're not familiar with the store, you walk in, and in the bodega, like what is it, the vending machine? Something. There's a door that like a wall that looks like you're about to grab something in that wall or like in that area. You step over to the vending machine. I think they used to send people to the vending machine. They used to be like, oh, grab something like a soda.
Yeah, that was always the thing.
That was a good trick. Like the bodega worker would be like, oh, grab like a soda or something. And then by the time you get to the vending machine, the sliding door opens automatically. You'd be like, what the fuck is this? And then, because people walk in there all the time, probably still to this day, thinking it's a regular bodega, especially older people that don't know about culture and like, or at least the young culture and the sneaker culture, they're going to just pass by, see a bodega, they stop in and like, oh shit, it's a store. So that was like one of the main attraction pulling things that literally took the whole industry by storm. Like to this day, it's still replicated across the world. Like they take that concept of like a sneaker store having that sneaky, speakeasy type of thing. But yeah, so you were young, you know, visiting that 2006. That's crazy. I was fucking 8 years old. That's wild. 2006. I forgot that they've been around for so long. So then, 2006. Fast forwarding to becoming, you know, what was the first actual collaboration that you had with them? Because you were intern, or better yet, let's start with this. When did the internship end? When did it become like you're not just an intern here? Now I'm an employee. I feel like I'm getting more respect than an intern would be.
I would say what happened was the internship was like 6 months, I want to say. So that brought me up to like the summer. Like it was the whole semester.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, I was only there like 1 or 2 days a week, like on Sundays and one weekday or something. And what happened was I was coming back to Rhode Island for the summer, and then I wanted to continue the internship, so I just kept, like, they weren't aware of the end date per se, so I just was taking the commuter rail back up just to work there, but I wasn't getting paid, and at this point, I wasn't getting class credit, you know, so I did that for, like, a couple weeks, and then I'm like, and then I remember talking to one of the designers, the homie Marvin, and I was like, you know, because I'm still like shy, kind of like I'm one of the youngest people there, period. And I'm like, I was like, he's like, how's things going? I'm like, oh, it's smooth, you know. I'm like, but, you know, I'm kind of like paying to get out here now, you know. And he like took it upon himself to like say something to the owners about it. And then they like were like, yo, we could break you off some money so at least you're not, you know, like you don't necessarily have a specific role. Like the marketing internship, it wasn't like I was doing like anything intense. And this was before social media, before Instagram and stuff.
2006.
Yeah. So, the internship, I was interning there like 2010. Well, 2010, 2011. Like the shit started, I think December 2010.
Yeah, 2010
is when.
And like 2011, 2012 was when it blew up. Like IG and everything like blew up. Yeah,
and like Twitter existed, but people weren't like selling product through it, you know. And it's like it was just like for celebrities at that. It was weird. It was just like But, anyways, he like put in the good word for me, and then they started paying me. And then once they started paying me, it's like things just picked up. It was like I started a few of the social media platforms for them. They at the time I was there, they weren't selling product on the website. So that was another opportunity for me to like provide some value. And it wasn't necessarily anything I'm like, yeah, like I'm trying to do this like e-commerce management stuff for it, you know, but I was just like, yo, it's my opportunity to kind of stick around and, you know, show my worth or whatever. So that went on for a while, and then or for the summer, say, and then they offered me like a position doing like the social media and e-com stuff.
Wow.
Like, and that was the first step. And then that went on for like a few years. And then that kind of went into like more of a head of marketing sort of role, because there wasn't like a marketing team, but they needed people to respond on behalf of Bodega to PR emails, and if someone requested photos of the store, you know, like all this stuff. So then it was like a marketing thing / like PR role. And then that was a few years, and then it went into like project management and like sort of like content production, where I was like helping produce like videos and editorials and stuff, but like also being like a project manager and trying to like be a little organized and help. At this time, the original designers were gone. My boy Pat was designing, and I was like right hand to him, like just making sure he stayed on time with stuff, threw him some ideas when he needed it, if he asked me, type of thing, just like. But at the same time, outside of Bodega, I was like getting busy myself with design and like learning Illustrator and learning Photoshop, because I just saw myself wanting to be more creative and not be stuck in this like digital marketing type of space, you know? So yeah, fast forward, like being there for like, I think I was there for like 7-8 years, and the design role like opened up because my homie Pat like moved on to pursue like dreams he had with his own brand. And I kind of was just like next up. And there's a bunch of other things that were happening parallel. Like I had my own brand, was sold in the store. I had been working with like different promoters in Providence to create posters for events and just to get like my skills up. I was doing a lot of stuff for free. And yeah, it was like this whole trial of like show and prove in a way. And when that opportunity presented itself, it was like the perfect time, because I was finally in a position where I had a skill set that could, you know, execute at the level they needed at that time. And even I wasn't sure of that at the time, but
you could fulfill it.
Yeah, but I was like, yo, let me like
try.
I'm gonna try and like you know, and I'm gonna go crazy like to figure it out. And yeah, in the past, I would say like 3-4 years, I think now I've been the designer.
So okay, so what's that specific title? The head designer?
Yeah, it's like lead designer.
Lead designer.
And it's all product and collaboration. So anything that bears like the Bodega branding, that's a tangible product. Like there's a whole nother team that focuses on advertising and marketing that really handles Instagram. Yeah. Like Instagram, you know, the post, you know how we do the ads.
Yeah, the
like
aesthetic that they have for everything. Yeah.
But
wow.
Yeah, so technically my role is as
the lead designer. So then what was the first like product as lead designer that you were like that came out and then sold and you were like, wow, I really you know, helped design that or designed that, you know, whether it was 100% of you designing it or being a part of the team that made it happen? What was that first like product?
So before the product, I guess it was some Instagram stuff. So it was like promo posters for collab projects. So it'd be like, you'd have my homie Pat design that shoe, but then I like helped with a poster. And that was like, it was around the time we were doing like Complex Con where I started like picking up more of the design responsibility. So I think the first Complex Con was like, I don't remember. I think it was 2017, maybe.
It was around there.
Yeah.
I went to it, whatever it was. I definitely was there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We went to the first one.
So it was like that. It was like doing the work for that, and it was helping minimally with like the build out at Complex Con, that first one, you know. And that's when I first started doing design work that like showed through forward facing, like, you know, it like
tangible, existing rather than just like part of the behind the scenes roles, but then you're like, oh, I'm actually designing these things and creations, and they're being made. Especially if you're doing like physical layouts for like, you know, I guess displaying what like the products and stuff and like
yeah,
the
like
booths.
signage and random things, kind of. And then the first product though was the first product I worked on behind the scenes was like the New Balance 997, but there was a project with Reebok that came out before that, but I worked on it after technically.
Okay.
Because it was like something they were trying to rush through because they wanted to do an activation in China with it. So they like, whatever, they like fast tracked it. So it was technically the first two projects were the New Balance 997S and then the Reebok Bodega Shanghai pack, which was I designed 2 pieces of the footwear and then a whole like apparel collection.
So Bodega Shanghai, Reebok.
Yep.
Let's see if these typos fix themselves. I definitely remember these. So there was 2. What was in the pack? How many came out?
The 2 I did were these 2, the Daytona and the Aztrek. And then there was a third one that was like a new model that we don't gotta talk about that one. I wasn't crazy about that one.
So they came out at the same time. Both. It was like a pack.
Yeah.
Okay. So
and they released like exclusively in China, and it was pretty much at a thing like Complex Con. It's called Intersect out there.
Okay. Yep.
And it was dope because that also was like that was the biggest build out we've ever done maybe to this day, and it was like 3 storefronts. We did a collab with like Pleasures and all these other brands, but like also had a big hand in just planning all the build out. Yeah, like the build outs themselves and the signage for it, and I don't know, just the layout and yeah.
Oh, that's fire. And what made you even like select this colorway, like the pink with the yellow and the blue? What was like the inspiration at the time for this? Because it was a pack, you know.
Yeah, it was a pack.
And how does this work? Like, do they say anything or like, this is what we want to do? Like, do they kind of like how Joe was kind of saying, like Nikki said what she said. It's called pink print, you know. They just said color pink. Yeah, they give something. They said stamp, and then like you do whatever with that. Yeah. Do they give you an idea, or do you start everything yourself from scratch?
No, they definitely have like certain goals. They won't give you like tight creative direction, but they'll be like, you know, our goal. You know, with designing this, they were like, this is gonna release at the pop-up y'all do in Shanghai.
Okay.
And given context like that, it's like, you know, the Daytona I think was coming back. At that time,
yep, definitely did.
That model they brought back, so they like wanted to focus on that model. Honestly, for me, I was just trying to do a color palette that was unique that I hadn't necessarily seen specifically on these styles. And it's interesting, like we backfilled a little bit of the narrative, and I kind of started saying the inspiration was like Shanghai sunset, because Shanghai is like a very like modern city in a way. The skyscraper, like the skyline, a lot of metal glass, and some of the most iconic images I would find when I just Google Shanghai were those sunsets. So I was like, you know, I was able to make a lot more sense of it that way, but it wasn't necessarily like at the forefront. Yeah. And if we're being honest, like the middle Daytona, it's like I kind of gave that like the Air Max TN treatment, you know, like a great, because those are one of my favorite, you know, one of my favorite shoes, and I hadn't seen it done on this model. So there's like a lot of influence drawn just from like shoes that I've had an affinity for in my life, you know, that might not necessarily be this brand, but have characteristics that I really like, you know, like something else is on this one specifically, and on the last one, it's like 3M, which is a consistent in a lot of the Bodega footwear. That whole panel that says Reebok is like 3M reflective. Right, so that was a thing. I honestly didn't know. I did these posters too at the time, like to promote these shoes.
Fire.
But
fucking fire. Posters to fire. That shit's hard.
Oh, yeah.
That shit's hard.
But I honestly didn't know, you know, I was just trying to do something that I know I could wear and like people, and that's what it always kind of comes down to. It's like I'm always looking around at myself and looking around at people in my circle, and I want to make sure I'm making things that I could see them rocking, you know?
100%. 100%. And this shit lasts forever too. That's the thing, is like you create things that always are gonna live on forever. You look back at it, you know.
Like that was even this photo shoot. Like we shot it. Like my boy Ricky shot this. He's the art director at Bodega now, but at that time he was a photographer. And we shot this like in my neighborhood in East Boston when I lived in East Boston. Like,
oh wow.
On the shot on the steps is like Steph. That's like my apartment was in that in that building type of thing. So
that's fire.
It was very much like,
yeah, it gives it like that everyday like type of where like not trying to be fancy, trying to just be cool and be like, this is what it is. This is me, you know, and it's you in every sense. So then after this, fast forwarding to the shoe that the New Balance that you were creating prior to this one releasing, but this one came out first, right?
Yeah.
But then the New Balance came out after. But this is, you know, and we'll debate this right now, but arguably, you know, amongst your best, if not the best design that this one, right? Correct? This was the first colorway, right?
The first was actually...
Oh, this one?
Yeah,
that's true.
the No Days Off.
Hold up, let's not go there. We don't need to give them no free promo.
Oh, boy.
Oh, no stocky
You might
X.
have to... Oh, there you go.
There we go. We just zoom in here. Bam. The one that had the internet going crazy. And this is definitely, I would definitely say you have credit for some of the, you know, because New Balance always had a existence in culture. Philadelphia always wore, everyone from Philly always wore the 990s. It's always like a big thing in like culture and fashion, Philadelphia fashion. But when you started doing things like this and like giving more of like a retro look and playing with colors on, you know, even models that weren't necessarily very popular at the time, I think you definitely played a part in what we see now, this resurgence of New Balance taking everything over and people now caring about New Balance. I feel especially now,
100%,
more than everything else.
I feel like ever since them joints dropped, New Balance is just, I'm being dead ass. Not even kidding, because I never rocked with New Balance. But ever since this shit came out, I was like, I was okay.
It was crazy because when I watched the interview we did before, something I said, and what I still say about these is like there were so many people in the comments that were like, I don't even fuck with New Balance, but I like, you know, there's something about these. So like, yeah, like these gonna be my first. And it's crazy because a New Balance aficionado wouldn't necessarily like the shoe because it's not made in US, it's not made in the UK, which is like, you know, people that are been on New Balance for a minute, that's like what they care about. Like it's that craftsmanship.
Really? So these were made overseas?
Yeah.
In like China?
Really?
Yeah. Why was that? Because of the material, the color, or?
Yeah, they don't. There's only select few styles that they actually make in the U.S. and the UK.
Really?
And
I didn't know that.
A lot more of their newer silhouettes, like the 9060 isn't. Like the 9060 that you see surfacing now that Joe Freshgoods has worked on and stuff, that's also made overseas. So there's a lot of other product that's not. And you could usually tell by the price point. Like if it's 160 or under, it's China, overseas, something like that.
Because made in America, made in USA's, they charge you more. Especially the 990s always have like the high price point retail.
For sure.
Wow. Okay, I didn't even know that. That's crazy. I just assumed everything.
Yeah, no. I think a lot of people align it that way in their heads too, you know.
100%. So these were the No Days Off. Why was it called No Days Off? What was the actual, you know, inspiration behind this? Which kind of had similar colorways to the Shanghai Reeboks, but not necessarily. You definitely have hits of blue. You have hits of orange. But what was the actual, you know, conciseness of this, which I know you thought about it before the Shanghais, right? You already were manifesting this design.
Yeah. So this one was like, so this silhouette very much inspired by like on the New Balance, and they proposed us this silhouette to work on. They were like, we have this new thing coming out. You know, it has this, because we were in conversations with them to work on something, and I kind of was telling them where our heads were at. You know, I wanted to go like this super, like almost like you got like a dead stock pair of old shoes. Like I wanted the shoes to come with like hang tags and like, you know, the yellow sole, like certain things. And they're like, we're going back and forth. We were originally going to do like a New Balance 1500, which is made in UK. But with that, the material option, same thing with made in US, the material options are way lesser. Like the color palette you can work with way less. It's like a select, I don't know the number, it's probably like 30 colors or something like that.
You couldn't get as creative or funky as you wanted with it.
Exactly. And this one, they're like, yo, how do you guys feel about this? And ever since they presented it to us, I was like, yo, this is exactly the silhouette that I feel like could sort of bear this like retro athletic idea. Beyond the whole retro athletic thing, it was kind of trying to create a shoe that had this like everyday wearability about it, because that was like a characteristic of New Balance that is always forefront in my mind. It's like the gray, the gray palette. It's kind of can be worn with jeans, khakis, olive pant, like whatever, it works.
Yep.
So that was at the forefront. Initially, we pitched that the shoe would be Gore-Tex because we wanted to make it something fitting for the Northeast, that could sort of be durable enough to take on whatever weather all season. They couldn't do the Gore-Tex, but that's still what informed like the color palette and the material choices. Like, I don't know, everything from like using the texture like neoprene on the collar, and then this like heel is sort of like this X-Pack material, which is normally used on like outerwear. We were seeing it like used on a lot of outerwear. I had never seen it on a shoe before we put it on there.
So you probably were the first one to put on a shoe.
I don't know, maybe. But I hadn't seen it, I must say. And yeah, the whole No Days Off theme, it was like, I was just throwing around ideas like, and that's where the rain comes from too, because it's like all weather, kind of like, it's also a shoe that I think you could beat up and it's still gonna look pretty good. Like I see people around that got theirs that are well worn and it's working. But No Days Off just came from like the mentality of our team at that time, because I was trying to create something that was like, I had a bunch of other corny ideas for names, like always, like never now, like not never now working, but all shit like that, like always grinding, whatever. And then I think my boss, actually, one of the owners of Bodega was like, yo, No Days Off. And that was it. And it like stuck. And the color palette, honestly, bro, is like drafting off of, again, nostalgic color. Like the red and purple means something to me, and I've seen on a million Nikes. Even if you look at the purple and turquoise, that's like a Jordan.
Yeah.
Like something they lean on a lot with different Jordan colorways over the years. Black and red, obviously. Yeah. Then you got the gray, which is, most in line with New Balance. And then just like gray, going crazy with the materials to make it stand out even more. And this whole like two-face idea, this idea of like what you see on the outside is not necessarily what you're going to get on the inside. And to me, that's like symbolic of Bodega in the physical form, It's like the whole speakeasy aspect of it.
No, you guys, you killed it with this shit right here. This was classic. And then following up this one, I think the same year was this one, correct?
Yes.
So then, was it the same case as scenario again, where they were like, we want you, New Balance, like, we want you to work on this model again? Or was it like a two design for one model deal? Like, what was
the deal was, we only were supposed to do one. And honestly, this one came, so we had 2 rounds of samples to get that first one. This one was in the first round of samples.
Oh, wow.
The No Days Off was in the second round of samples. We just decided we felt stronger about that. So I saw this one, and I kind of like, I don't know, drafted off of some elements to do the No Days Off one in the second round. And I went like left a little because I was like, I want to see like different colors and materials on it, because I wasn't like fully sold with this. And then what happened was we shot the Bodega lookbook for like the private label clothing that season, and I was like, yo, I'm gonna put this sample in it and see if anyone cares or notices or if it drums up conversation, and that's exactly what happened. We threw it in the lookbook, and when we threw it in the lookbook, people noticed it right away because the No Days Off had already released and went crazy.
Yep.
And then people were like, oh shit, like what's this one? And to the point where like New Balance made it happen, but that was not in the plan at all.
But it got so much attention that people were like, oh, we got to make that happen. Like that was just like a one-off sample potential, might not have a drop, and they were like, oh, we want more, they want more, that colorway got attention, people are interested, let's make it happen.
Yep.
Wow. And then the name was just a play off of the last name, because this one's last one was No Days Off, this one's No Bad Days.
Yeah, it's being like, the last one I guess could be seen as like more of a not aggressive not aggressive, but no days off. It's like a tougher thing. You know, no bad days is just kind of positive, like very positive and like, you know, so we were trying to go left from the initial pair.
And shout out to Sir. I forgot Sir was a part of that campaign.
Yeah,
that's
that was
crazy.
Dope.
That's fucking wild. I forgot
that
all
was
about
before
that.
his project dropped.
Yeah.
Chasing Summer.
That's before
right?
that shit went crazy now. That's like a classic R&B album.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. There he is.
Wow. Yeah, man. And then when things like that, so that was more of like on the marketing team side, or did you like, oh, let's put Sir in it? Like that's more of their decision?
No. That was me.
That was you. Oh, so
yeah,
you had
Sir,
that idea?
like yeah.
That's
Sir.
fire.
A lot of at this period in Bodega, I definitely had a little more involvement. Well, I still do, but I had a lot more say over that stuff because I kind of was coming from the role where I was like helping produce. Like I was at the shoot in California. We like rented a like Airbnb in the hills somewhere and like shot it all around there. But yeah, Sir was one of those people. I think like us working with Buddy when we did, I definitely like
you played a role in
that happened. Yeah.
And how does that work? Like they already have these connections, or like you?
It depends.
Or do you know do you have to like personally know them? Like, oh, I know Sir. Can we maybe reach out through Bodega, or did Bodega already know them?
No,
or like a special email gets sent out. Like, how does it work?
It could be from a bunch of. It could be what you're saying. Like there might be like overlap in people we know. Like oh, I know his manager or something. But a lot of times it is just like reaching out, like on Instagram, maybe from the Bodega account, and then if that doesn't work, getting the email, you know, finding ways to get the email. I think what has helped us is like opening in LA, especially.
Yeah,
like,
I saw that. That's like a recent store. No, it's like how long now? It's like
3 or 4 years, and that has obviously opened up the network and access to certain people.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It really depends on where the person stands. It's like, Sir, we definitely at that time that was one of the biggest investments we made in like a talent for a photo shoot. And I think it paid off. But yeah, it's usually through either a mutual connection, and if not, it'll just be straight up like reaching out however we can find a way to
that was fucking
get through.
That was very memorable, very classic time. So what was your favorite out of the two pairs of these 997s?
There's actually a third pair too.
Oh, that is true. Let me look that one up. What's the name of that one?
The first one was my favorite. Better Days.
Better Days. Keeping it in the days.
Keeping the days. Honestly, that one.
Yep.
That one was gonna.
This was like a whole year after though. No, this wasn't.
Yeah, that was
right?
a whole year.
This one was a whole year.
Because then after the success, so what happened was, we underestimated the first one naturally because that was like unexpected. It was like timing. The fact it was a new model, because we debuted this model. Like, it didn't come out as a New Balance model before our first one.
Oh, wow.
Right. So it was like a lot of uncertainty. So it was like there wasn't a lot of pairs at all. And that's why the value on those is crazy. But but then after that release.
That's why they call him Drew Balance.
Yeah, right?
Yo.
After that first release, we had all this data to support like how many people are on the website trying to buy the other one. So we had all this data to support doing the second one. And then seeing the reaction of people seeing the second one in the editorial, it was like drummed up, or a lookbook, it drummed up some excitement. And then after the success of that one, it was like, yo, we got to do one more. You know, just make it a trilogy. I got more colorways in my, back pocket. I'll try to figure something out here. And then this one happened. And honestly, this one.
Your favorite?
No, I don't know. Did this one come out in 2020? Or was it the end of 2019?
That's 2020. I think it was 2020.
Yeah, so what happened with this one was like, originally, to be honest, I wanted to call this one End of Days. But it was too controversial because it was the end. Like, when I was working on it, it was like
2020 countdown, yeah.
Yeah, it was like 2019. Shit was starting to get crazy on all fronts. Like, and I was like saying End of Days to be like symbolic of like the trilogy ending. But it was also like, it was commentary on the world. Yeah, and it was also like, that's where like the green and the hot pink come in. It's almost like radioactive kind of palette going on. Like a desert. I don't even know. Like, radioactive shit going on in the desert. That's what I'm gonna chalk up the inspiration for that one. But that ended the like 997S trilogy, I guess, for Bodega.
Am I tripping, or is this like this one, since the third pair, is it like did you bring both of them together to make the third one? Because I noticed that the first one had like the rough patch on the side, and this one has it on the inside. Then the second pair had like the leather, and then this third one.
Yeah, so it was like every single one. This one is like a mix, maybe of the materials of the of both of them.
Yeah.
But then it's like it also has one extra, like it uses nubuck instead of leather, but nubuck wasn't used on the other two. Gotcha, but it still was the idea of like flat and furry,
right?
Or like texture in that way, and that's like that kind of has become the approach for all the Bodega collaborations since then, almost like trying to really do unique color palettes and material stories where it's like it's a mix of materials that I don't know. Obviously you've seen them on shoes and stuff, but maybe not all on one shoe.
Yeah.
Or maybe not the effect of like that lateral being different than the medial side of the same shoe.
Yeah. Oh man, listen. Listen, I don't know if the conversations ever happened between you and like New Balance, and maybe them like acknowledging even a fucking thank you or something, because you definitely played a role in like their resurgence, or at least let's say, what's a good way to say it, like they're rising in the modern culture of like coolness. Let's say, because they always probably had money.
Let's keep it a stack, bro.
But you made it cooler. You helped make New Balance cooler, or cool again, if they ever had a moment, obviously in culture universally, where they were cool. Because when we were in middle school and high school, everyone always wanted to. There's always a sneaker that was cheap and affordable, and people always wanted to wear them. Whether it was a time, obviously the Chucks had a moment, the Converses, everyone had Chucks, everyone had skate highs, the Vans. Everyone went through that moment. Then everyone went through a moment where everyone had the 574s, the New Balance 574s that you can find them at Zoomies or at Journeys, and they would sell out specific colorways. Every girl had them, So it definitely had that moment. But then I felt like there was like a huge gap between then and then now, when Drew came in with the Bodega designs, and now we have them, being flooded. Like everyone's doing a New Balance now.
Yeah.
No, it's true. There's great people over there that like look out and show like they're one of my favorite brands to work with, just being local, the people they have, because
they're based out of the headquarters and everything is in Boston. No,
Boston. I think it it is technically Boston, and it's right on the side of the highway there in like 93. You can see it off the highway
all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, but dope ass building.
It is crazy. I think they like something it was like designed to look like a boat or a ship or something, or like that was the inspiration for the building, I think.
But it looks like an aerodynamic type of building. Like it's not a regular structure.
It stands out, bro. It stands the fuck out when you're driving down the highway.
Yeah. And I don't know, more than anything, like fast forwarding to now, it's like my thing is I feel like with certain shoe models, especially with New Balance, like there's certain models that you'd have to fuck it up for people not to like it. Like the 990 V3. Like, if you do one of those and it doesn't hit, it's like, what?
Yeah, you
like, what'd you do?
You must have done too much.
Yeah.
You must have done too much on it or something. Because it's like such a likable, like everyone likes the structures on them and everything, the way that people work on them. Yeah. What's the most recent one that you did for?
It would be the 574 Legacy, which
right
goes
here,
back to the blue and yellow. We got like Larry June.
Yep, I saw that Larry June
in the
going back to the artist collaboration.
Yeah, and that like I was so on this project because it was exactly what you just said. When I was in middle school, high school, it was like you were good with a couple pairs of those in the basic colors, because they had like the gray, the black, the blue, and then they had like one that was like a wheat color with navy on it too, and you'd be good with those. And like, how people were wearing like two t-shirts with that match you have the navy layer. And you'd be straight. And that was like a memory that I always had associated with that model, and that was the purpose of the 574. Like as I like did some research, it was like, it was meant to be an accessible model in New Balance's range because their price points were coming in high. You know, like the 990 was one of the first shoes to like break $100 at the time, and that's why it was a flex in places like the DMV area, Baltimore, Philly, etc.
Very true. Because these were like what, $90 retail back then in school. They were cheap.
I think so.
Maybe lower. No, like $75.
You think
I think it was like, especially like the lower sizes.
Oh, it was two. Well, when I was in high school, it was like 2 for $89 was the deal.
Yep, it was like very affordable.
And then if you were kids, if you were
Wait,
kid size,
how old are you now?
Oof. And I'm just playing. 32.
32, bro. He's 32. So
you're not that old, bro.
Yeah.
You're 6 years older than me.
Right.
eight more than me. Almost a decade. You know, it's a different era, a different time. Yeah.
It was a good time. It was a good time.
It's still
Oh,
90s
man.
babies, bro. We still 90s babies.
Yeah.
No, he's not. You a 90s baby? No.
90 flat.
90.
Oh, okay.
90s
Yeah.
baby.
He got in by
put some respect.
by thin hair.
I was sweating.
Oh, shit, I was about to ask him, how was the 80s like?
Yeah.
No, man, but yeah, definitely. I could definitely see this because they definitely had similar colorways to this. I've definitely probably seen a yellow pair, a blue pair, but never with the inner lining like this, or even like the metallic silver on the logo, the things that you did to it to spice it up, even the khaki tongue, like all those touches definitely made it more impactful. And it's a strong release right here.
Yeah, these, like, I just wanted it to be almost like the classic build, but in colorways that I wish they had back then or something like that, you know? Because even the N, that is kind of how the N was on the classic ones with the 3M and the 3M on the heel there, on the top. So I wanted to, like, keep that. There's, like, I think with all the shoes that we work on, there's, like, definitely a focus on the origin of the model and, like, trying to bring up some of the OG details, but in a more complimentary way to like whatever else we're trying to get off with it. And that was a couple of the details that we pulled up. Like obviously the mainly all suede build, like the mesh was true to the OG, and then the what's it called? The 3M sort of hits. And then tried to insert like our flavor here and there. Like that gray on the tongue is something we added with like the perforation in it. Kind of gives it more of like utilitarian feel. But yeah, I felt good about that one.
And then now, so this is the most recent. And then do you have maybe something? I'm assuming, because if I'm New Balance, I'm blowing your phone up. But do you have like like more collaborations coming? Because this probably was something that you probably, because knowing you have like designs and everything already pretty much layered out months ahead, time ahead. This was probably, this one that just recently came out was what? Like, it wasn't like right away it came out. You probably already had it, this one in mind for a while, this design idea, this release? Or was it again, like they came to you?
No, it was again, they're like, we want to bring back the 574.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Like, we want, and this whole thing was like doing an activation in Paris. So we were in Paris this summer.
I saw that.
Yeah. And I forget, International Classic was the name that we put on it, just because of, us knowing we were going to take it abroad and release it in Paris. Also, like, Larry June's involvement in it. And just like what the shoe represents itself. And, yes, we do. We have a New Balance. We have another New Balance before the end of this year. And then the next one's already designed as well, which I think is, like, April or May of next year.
Whew. Keeping the ball rolling.
Okay.
Yeah.
But taking it a step back, because you definitely have plenty of more New Balances that, we could be here all day talking about. But when it came to the infamous Nike Dunk that you designed, potential, sneaker of the year that year, it was obviously two, but then this was the first one rolled out, right? This was the main one.
Yeah, the white one or the cream one was meant to be more of a friends and family
pack.
So they released at the same time, technically, but you couldn't outright buy the cream. Yep. You had to, like, go to the store and, like, bug people for it or, like,
Yeah. So then this one, Nike, this was definitely still at the time of we're still going through it, like the dunk era. It's like a dunk era, you know. I think the dunk era is kind of dying down right now.
Yeah.
But there was like a moment where it was spiking, and then everyone was doing dunks. So obviously, at some point, you know, Concepts has a history of dunks. Bodega, do they have a prior dunk to this one?
No.
So this was Bodega's first dunk?
First dunk, second Nike, or like third Nike project in total. The first one was a Footscape Chukka, and that was a pack. So that was 3 different Footscapes at the time.
I know Sudi loves his Footscapes.
Yeah. Sudi's in it. Aficionado. And then we did like that same Complex Con year. One of the owners of Bodega did like some custom Moab version thing that dropped only at Complex Con in limited numbers. So if you want to count, that would count as the second project. And then this would be the third Nike project, but the first dunk
ever that Bodega has done. So did they? How does this start? How does this idea manifest itself? Is it Nike? Yo, dunk. Bodega. Can we do a dunk together? Or Bodega's like, let's reach out to Nike to try to do a dunk, since dunks are popping right now. Let's do our own version of that. Drew, take that over. How was that?
So with Nike, they call on you type of thing, like. You know, because everyone wants to work with them, and they have the most, like, just strong selection of silhouettes and history and all this stuff. So everyone wants to work with Nike. It's like
100%.
So that kind of is like, you just got to be ready when they knock. Yeah. And that's what it was. I just remember, like, I remember being on the train home from Boston, coming back to Providence, and I got a call from, like, my boss, like, hey, like, we finally my boss Jay specifically, he has a great relationship with people at Nike in general, and he's like, yo, like, we finally got one. They want to do this thing where there's like a selection of retailers that work on a dunk high specifically, and that's initially how it started. And it's like, you know, Bodega has like great standing with Nike and such, but like I said, they kind of like went out like a partner that works with them on a consistent basis.
Definitely
so it's like you just wait for it to come through. And like in the case of like Concepts, like what works in their favor is they're like one of the first Nike SB accounts ever.
Yep.
And so all of their dunks are SBs. This isn't technically a SB. This is just
dunk
straight up dunk high. But yeah, that's how it started. And then it was like just having initial conversations with the Nike team about direction and all that. And like the whole process, like on all these shoes, is like anywhere between like 10 months to like a year and a half, give or take, depending on what brand, depending on what else they have going on, like all these things. So it's like before, like it's all calculated, you know. They know they were gonna make a moment of the dunk, like that was just in the plan. So it's so before the dunks were maybe like really, you know, like peaking in the marketplace, we were kind of like already working on this.
Oh, okay.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And
definitely were. If it was like a year at least average time frame beforehand, coming out, definitely.
And these dropped in an interesting, because it was the very end of the year of 2020, right? Yeah, very end, like just so it missed out on all the top releases of the year, because that shit all comes out like before Christmas almost. You know. So it's kind of like in this forgotten space, because then it doesn't count as releasing in 2021 either. So it couldn't. But I love this shoe.
Listen, I said it was a sneaker of the year this year, no matter what, because it came out this year. I remember it. It's memorable. Always gonna be, you know, a sneaker I wear all the time. I think I've to this day never cleaned them once. I just wear them, since they came out. But when it came to this, so is it your favorite design that you've made in a sneaker, like that has come out? Because obviously you probably have some stuff that hasn't been released yet, or stuff that you drafted up, sketched, but has this been your favorite, you know, Drew design release?
I would say yes, it has to be, because just like one, working with Nike, just like growing up, you know, it being my like brand of choice for footwear all, you know, through my childhood, through teenage years, it's always been a dream to work with Nike. And then beyond that, like, just more of what we made the project about makes it the most significant easily when you, like, put it up against the other stuff. Like, I like everything, you know, that I've worked on and done, obviously, but, like, this one had a lot more, like, threads and intention, I think, behind the story and who and what we were trying to commemorate, sort of, with it.
Yeah, because I remember that whole rollout. It was like a Sandlot vibe. That's a movie, right? The Sandlot kid, like the kids that played basketball.
Yeah.
I mean, baseball.
Baseball,
And then even the whole actual editorial, everything you guys shot was like at a baseball field, right? It was like
it was actually Coney Island,
baseball
New York.
Field. Wow.
And yeah, it was like a concrete baseball field, and all the content and stuff was shot by On Lunch Break, which is like a production company that's based in New York, but it was started by the homie Twan, who's actually from Lawrence.
Wow.
And they really like killed it with the like editorial vision. But further, like even beyond that, the whole thing with this was the idea of like sort of trying to create a dunk that felt like it was a part of like folklore. And it was like almost like a dunk that you might have heard about and seen glimpses of, but you more so know about the legend of it and the idea of people telling you about it. Or like, it's almost like the dunk that came before the first dunk. It has like these bespoke, like handmade sort of details to it with the rawhide.
Yeah.
And then it has like this Western sort of cowboy boot flavor mixed with, you know, the baseball glove aesthetic. And then for me, it was like, the jewel specifically, like, it's just very nostalgic for me, but mostly seen on like Air Forces. And that's where I always
growing up,
appreciated it
Air
and
Forces,
stuff. You know, like the mids with the jewel were like a thing when I was younger. And so I was like, how do you do the jewel, but in a way that's like different? And honestly, I want a pair of all-white Air Forces with this jewel and a gum bottom, and I think those would be real fly. But they haven't done it. But I was like, you know,
heard it here, Nike,
right? Making a tortoise jewel would kind of be a flex, you know, because it's not just a filled-in colored jewel. It varies with every shoe. Like the jewel itself is not the same coloration and stuff.
They're all unique.
Yep, and yeah, that's sort of like the quick snapshot of the initial inspiration. The idea was like, I wanted the shoe to be something that like, as you wore it, it got better with time, which is why in the editorial, we showed it pretty beat up and like worn. And actually, we had our homie, this dude Filthy, do like the distressing to all the pairs for the photo shoot. And he's based in New York. But you had that whole thing happening. And then at the same time, earlier in the year, the homie Marvin, that was the like OG, part of the OG Bodega design team, was the homie Marvin and Randy. Marvin unexpectedly passed in May of 2020.
Well, rest in peace, Marvin.
Yeah, one of my biggest like inspirations, hands down, mentor, like big bro. And with that, that was right around the time the shoe was pretty much done, but the marketing is what we were trying to figure out. And I was like, yo, we had the Sandlot idea was all there, but then another idea that I had on top of that was like, yo, the shoe's coming with a card pack, because I just felt like that drove home like the idea of this nostalgia. And, you know, that like coming of age type of energy, you know, and it's anyone that's any age now can appreciate, you know, could at some level appreciate
collector edition feeling.
And what we did was we had like Marvin was like the insert card in the pack where it was a holographic like Marvin card. It was Astro. He's on that was his nickname and shit. Stro. And there's a card with him that we had the homie Randy, who was a part of the original design team. He illustrated Marvin chilling, wearing the jacket, wearing the shoes, sitting down. And that card was just in the pack, which was in every pair.
Yeah. I got that part.
And a part of the marketing. But it really, and then even to the point where like we shot in the editorial, we had like Marvin's wife and son in the content as well. So that was really dope.
Because that was post his passing.
post his passing and the shoe being called the legend, I felt like it's like what he, at the core and essence of everything, he really represents what Bodega really stood for in like my eyes. And yeah, just like associating him with this like I felt like we had to do something to
100%
commemorate him in some way. And I feel like it, you know, it was as much as we could do at the time. There's still things happen that commemorate him all the time in Boston and such. And but it was just an opportunity for us to like take it in that direction, just to show love. And
well, that's hard because it gives it more of like a personal piece, and it's like more memorable, and it's like everything's personal, but then this one has actual history behind it, like real deal, you know.
And it's like he was like involved with the Footscape project, which if you take this dunk and put it side by side with the Footscape, they look like they're like cousins kind of, because it's like very natural palette, tans and browns. The Footscape looks like a moccasin, so it kind of has that handmade, you know, like handmade aspect to it.
That is true. Yep, especially with the yarn or that thing at the end that's looks like a lace, but then you zoom in on this. That's what a lot of people don't like about this, but I like it. But it's obviously an acquired taste.
Absolutely.
That's crazy. I never really put the two and two together.
Yeah. Wow. Even like the gum bottom, like that's just something that I've ran with Bodega now, and I definitely got it from the original design. You know, it's like I of course can appreciate gum bottom and I like it, but they're the ones that really like, I don't know, in my eyes, like put it on the map because they were just using it so much on all the collaboration designs. So,
no, that's amazing, and it's crazy. Like I said before, you create all this stuff, and now it lives on, you know, forever. Because this is definitely a nostalgic type of dunk, and I definitely, when it came out, I definitely in my mind had the comparisons already in mind with like I'm like, yo, if, like Travis Scott, like a Travis Scott type of like aesthetic, in a sense where Travis Scott plays with like that type of, especially in his later releases after this. He had one where it was like kind of like even hiking. No, didn't he have like a shoe?
It was like an Air Max 1,
like an Air Max 1 or something. It was like a hiking one. It like the whole thing.
Flipped it.
But then that idea of like the brown with the leather, I was like, yo, that would have been dope too. If like, I feel like this is like, if Travis Scott were to do a dunk, it would be like this too. Like, I feel like he definitely did. I'm not sure if he ever wore them publicly, but
I don't think he did. But
he probably fucks with these. I would imagine. It's like it goes hand in hand.
Right. It's like that Western. Yeah, got the Western vibe. And that's the thing. It's like, it's hard for me sometimes to articulate exact references because it's like a mix of, you know, it's a mix of stuff that's not necessarily connected.
Yeah.
But I think when it gets put together in one place, people receive it how they do, because it's like those, it might be the jewel swoosh that like get someone feeling some type. You know, there's like a lot of things maybe to latch onto. Even thinking about dunk history in general, there's like the Shanghai 2s or something. One of those SBs did something like that with the rawhide, or like the X's in the back. And like, so I was definitely trying to like, I don't know, draft off of some of the classic, well-received dunks of years past, but give it an update. That was a sample that we got in trouble for. I tried to do the same thing where I just put it in a lookbook to see if they let us make it again.
It didn't work with Nike.
Nah, it didn't work with Nike.
They were like, we're not New Balance.
That was the other direction. It was gonna go more of a basketball, like true to your school, but like Celtics, Lakers, almost.
Wow. Okay.
Basketball direction. But that one's
probably never gonna come out.
No, never.
You probably have a pair, I would imagine, for yourself, no? Like when it comes to a lot of this stuff, do you have like, because you're the
not in my size.
Guy? Oh, really?
I have a sample.
What's usually like a sample size? Is it whatever? 9?
Yeah, it's changing a little now.
People say that. No, people say that. You're a 9.
Size 9.
Like New Balance is 9.5 because their CEO is a 9.5 or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Which I like that. If I had the power to do that, I would. But I'm like an 8, 8.5. So I kind of, it's like it would be a force for me to.
You have to like double layer the socks.
Yeah, I'm definitely
just,
like
throw an extra insole in there, bro.
Right.
That'd be crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. No, yeah, because I know that's true. Because every time people find like random samples in like Salvation Armies and thrift stores, they're 9s. They're always 9s, like
Yeah.
9s throughout history. That's like the average sample size, or I think the most popular size too. I'm not sure if that's on purpose, but yeah. Wow. So this is definitely your favorite design that you did for sure.
Yeah, that. Another one that's like up there. That's a lot less. That's like circulated a lot less is like the Sauconys Grid Azura
Oh.
2000.
That's my gym shoe every day.
Oh, for real?
Yep.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites just because I thought it was funky and different.
Woo.
Like, I don't think there's any shoes that look like it.
Yeah, I wear these every day. Every day to the gym. This is my everyday shoe right here. I just slide them on. They're already tied, but I just slide them on. It's crazy. No, I swear to God. It might have been, I think it was my... Because did this one come out prior to the Dunk?
Yeah.
Yeah, this was one of the first of your designs that I've bought. But I've bought like
I think this
the
was
other
top
ones.
of 2020, honestly. Scroll down.
That's what it was then. Well, this
I
is
don't know
release
if it
date.
said.
20.
Yeah, 2020.
Yeah, 2020. Yeah, 100%. But this one, I definitely it was the first one of yours that I bought and wore. The prior ones I had, but it wasn't my size, and like you said at that time, the prices, people were reselling them. I definitely resold the bad days. I think all 3.
Yeah.
But this was the first one that I bought. Like I need to wear this. And I wore it, and I still wear it to this day, every day. But I loved the I don't even know what you would call this because it's not even reflective.
Iridescent.
It's not. It's like iridescent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Iridescent touch on these.
And that one, like, pretty much, we have, like, a great relationship with Sauconys, and they allowed us to, like...
Another Boston company, right? They're based out of Boston, no?
Yeah. Just
Wow.
outside. I think it's, like, technically, like, Waltham, but...
Yeah.
Yeah. And they pretty much let us select a model from the archive, and I was just, like, really... Like, I came across some, like, old vintage collector's post with this shoe in it. It looked way different. It was like white and blue and black or something. And I was just like, yo, those are kind of crazy. That would be dope to do our own spin on that.
Now that I think of it, that might be your best design so far that came out. I like it a lot. I mean, I wear it every day. I do wear the Dunk, but this one for some reason just gives me like, I can wear it everywhere, no matter what.
Those are more of a everyday shoe.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to the Dunk, you know what I'm saying?
Dunk,
Yeah.
because the Dunk has that heavy leather, so it's like it can get uncomfortable to wear, especially because a high Dunk.
In the
So in the back of the heel, if you're not wearing like high socks,
That shit eats you.
it could fuck you up. So it's like yeah. But these are like a perfect shoe, and I could wear with anything, like any color.
Yeah, because there's like fucking... That's another thing. A lot of the shoes got like over 10 colors. And even ones that you wouldn't think have more than 10 colors, they low-key do.
And that's what I think is like another reason why you're a great designer, because you'll do that, but then you'll make it make sense. Because people will be like, oh, 10 colors on the shoe. No, that's way too many.
No,
But then you'll do it
Yeah.
and you'll put the colors in specific spots
That's a fact.
where it's like not overkill.
A lot of people drafted off of what Bodega was doing with the Sauconys and applied it on their other collab shoes like back in the day. And I don't know how to explain it in a concise way, but if you look at certain, not necessarily these crazy funky ones, but like just using like eggshell on all the sole of the Sauconys, like that cream color. And there's certain characteristics like the color blocking that they would do. You would see it show up on like Asics collabs that people were dropping like years at, a year or two after. And like, I think there was a lot of like, there was just a lot of influence, I think, because like Saucony as a brand, it's not necessarily like a heavy hitter in the lifestyle space, but I think people were interested in the stance that Bodega took when they did start doing so many, because they were releasing
100%.
in like groups of 3, groups of 4, groups of 5 at once. And for me, I've only done one. I've only done that first one, and the next one comes out like January. So it will be 2 in January, or
Wow.
3. If you count
'cause
that
the black one that was
freebie
limited, the 50 pair free one. Yeah, even looking at this one, it looks like the 9. Especially with this. What would you call this type of material right here?
That's like
bumpy
a neoprene.
neoprene. This
But it's like
neoprene
molded or
material,
something.
It was on the 997. It looks definitely like a 997. So like
even the perforated leather, like there's like this
Yeah.
ongoing theme of like X's and O's, kind of grids and circles that
Yep.
I
grid.
drafted off of like, you know, from the original designers and shit.
No, it's fire. I've always loved Sauconys, especially because they were. A lot of times you can get them pretty affordable, and you can get them at Marshall's, AJ Wright at the time. AJ Wright doesn't exist no more, but AJ Wright, when it was around, you can get a bunch of Sauconys. And a lot of people that were like into comfy shoes and culture, like Action Bronson was into Sauconys, very heavy early in his career.
Yeah.
He probably still is. I wouldn't put it past him, but
Yeah, he is.
yeah, but yeah, this is I think it's very underrated. But who knows? They'll probably have their time. Or it's like a random, like, people get tired of the same shit. Like, oh, let's all wear Sauconys now because no one's wearing them.
Yeah, they're definitely, like, they've been doing more and more interesting stuff. They've been, like, aligning with this designer, Tom Bogo, and, like, certain people in the space that I think will help them get on the map more. It's just tough. I think it definitely goes in cycles. Like, who's at the, remember when ASICS was, like, the shit? In the lifestyle space, like they always held it down for running and performance, but it's like there was a period where it was like that was the Ronnie Fieg kid, like early.
Even their packaging was crazy on the ASICs. Even the packaging on the ASICs was like nuts at a time. It felt like a collector type of shoe because they did so much with them, so many colorways. Like that was a time right there. That was a good ass time, that the ASIC era, and they were not too cheap either. They were pretty they were up there, especially compared to like they definitely were like, what was retail? Definitely like above 200, no? On those ASICs? I feel like they were.
They never caught my attention. So.
Really? You're not an ASICs guy?
I never honestly. I mean, before Bodega ones, I didn't have ASICs.
Listen, man, this is a. I feel like those 3 brands, Saucony, well, even Pony, to some extent, even though no one cares about a pony anymore. But like the comfy shoe aesthetic is something that everyone. These are hard. I don't even know what the hell these are, but these are hard.
I think those are just.
Oh, these are Bodega too?
No, those aren't.
It probably just comes up.
Yeah, they probably are trying to get their search.
That's crazy.
Rankings up. But it's the same model, but that's just an inline, I think.
Wow.
Like general release joint.
So going to let me see. What's a good ass question right now? I know that let's ask what Nasty had. Jay had a question for you. Nasty, where's Nasty from? Stay Silent. The infamous guest that we had on here that made Rhode Island viral online on Twitter with the clip I posted from the podcast of his episode. But he said, a question for Drew, what's the smallest detail that he's obsessed over on a sneaker design? And basically goes hand in hand with one of the questions I was going to ask, basically breaking down your mindset of the process of, being a designer, because you are, a graphic designer. So, we've done our own fair share of logo creation, merch and everything. So learning all this, you definitely see like the importance of small things like typography, like getting the right font, getting the right spacing on that font, getting the right, overlayering of that font, or the opacity or the shadow level. All that stuff is like, it becomes a headache, and people don't really realize, especially consumers, they love the product, but they don't realize like the actual creation process, like how much meticulous and like time consuming it can be. So bring us back to that mindset of being a designer, Drew, and going back to Nasty's question, what's the smallest detail that you've obsessed over on a sneaker design?
There's been a lot of different things. Like, for example, there were just certain things where there's a lot of times where like something will change from like the sample you approved to what they actually produce, and it's like without having the visibility, it like shows up one way and you're like, what the so like to me those are always a big deal, but no one outside of me really knows that it wasn't supposed to be like that. So like there was some shit, I think with the 990, The outsole. Like there's an N that's on the toe of the shoe.
Yeah.
Like that you can see that, you know, the area where the outsole comes up the front, there's an N there. And I just remember like wanting it to be, I forget what color we landed. I think it's orange on the final, but I want it to be like the purple that we used elsewhere on the branding. And I like made a big deal about it. And the people at New Balance were just like, yo, that's like that change at this stage is like a $2 million like change to like at this point to like go back on what we already were thinking, or like, you know. So in that instance, that was like, that one was probably my fault, but there was a lot of things that like they're just small little, even with the first set of New Balance, the second one, the color of the gray leather on the sample that we approved, it was like it had like a yellow tinge to it. But it was still gray leather, but it was a little yellow, and that shit drove me crazy at first. Like when I first got it, I was like, nah. Like because like to give it context, it was like that was the one we were going all in on because we had all this data.
Yeah.
And we were doing a lot higher numbers and volume. So I was like, and my boss is very supportive where he's like, if it's not 100%, just say no. Like, you can't do it. Don't do it until you feel like it's 100%. Like, we don't want to be throwing money around for something we're not
you're not
100% on.
Yeah.
And that was another one it like couldn't change. But it's also like, it was like a tone and shade of the leather. Yeah. It was still close, and it's just something that I'm like, I don't even like these anymore. Not that serious, but yeah. Yeah,
because the consumers, they see it and they love it, appreciate it after. But then you being the creator, you're looking at it where it's like, fuck, if that shit was just like that, the
like
other way I
and the thing
it.
that fucks me up is when I actually see it in the other way, and I know, like, because then it's not me speculating, like, I think it'll be better. It's like, nah, I know it was better. Like, and now we're going to sell this one. You know, but no one, like, on the outside, it's like, I don't think many people really pick up on the certain details. But that's a part of, like, I think what makes me a little crazy, but also successful in the space. It's like, just being extra.
Going off of that one, bro, I was going to ask, too, is there, like, with every collab that you've done, is there something that you do there to let, like, it's like, this is the Drew touch, like a little Easter egg type of shit, you know what I'm saying?
I wish I did that, honestly. Like put my initials like in code somewhere on the shoe or something, but I've never done it.
You know, it's like people be like, oh yeah, Bodega collab, this and that, but it's like people's like who know Drew is like, okay, where in the shoe can I see? Is like, yo, this is how you know it was by him, you know what I'm saying?
I wish there was something that was like explicitly done for that, but I would just say it's like the lace options, like the multiple lace options, the mismatch outside inside. Like I feel like all those things work to like reinforce where it comes from, but I have never done anything like directly, you know, where it's like an Easter egg, but that would be ill.
That'd be dope.
Okay, and now moving on to another question. Outsourced from Sudi. Sudi said, what's your dream project or product that you'd love to work on?
Dream. I mean, I got like LL Bean dreams. That's one dream. Like I love to work with LL Bean.
But for like the apparel? Because that's what they're known well, they are known for the boot.
Apparel, bag, like a whole capsule.
Oh,
bag,
wow. That'd be hard.
Apparel. Only because like I grew up with it being around, like from it being, you know, the backpacks were a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Hell yeah.
Also like just like hand-me-downs in general. Like I got so many like hand-me-down backpacks, hand-me-down tote bags. Mm-hmm. And it's just like something that I think is so synonymous with like New England style and heritage. And like there's so many brands today that draft off of what they've done for 150 years now, I think, or something like that. And for me, I'm like, just like being able to work with them and give it more of a street level, like modern flair that I think I could bring to it would be ill. So I would say like if it was a dream collaboration, maybe LL Bean would be the one. If it was like a product, like a car of some sort, like a whatever edition car, like, I don't know, Drew edition vehicle. And it, You know, like they used to do like the Eddie Bauer edition.
Yeah.
For like explorers, I think, or expeditions
What was
or
it?
some
The
shit.
Subaru has like a.
They had a LO Bean
Subaru. Subaru.
Yeah.
That would be hard.
They had that.
If you do your own version of LO Bean
they had
Subaru.
Another one that I didn't even know was a thing was Columbia, the jacket outerwear company.
Mm-hmm.
They did a Jeep before. That was the Columbia model.
Oh,
I would do a Jeep. I've had a Jeep for a minute. Yeah.
Drive a Jeep.
But
that's hard.
yeah, I don't know. I would say something like that because the car shit would be sick. To like, you know,
it's attainable. You've done already a lot. You know what I'm saying? It's just got to manifest it, put it out there. It's definitely bound to happen. And the LL Bean shit is a dope. It's a dope thing because I don't know. It's obviously an established brand. Because like a lot of these brands, like going back to like New Balance, they don't really need more money. Obviously, they're already making money. They don't need like, oh, let's do this something new to make money. But when it comes to cultural relevance, you know, if you want to weigh that as a currency, a lot of these companies, that currency of cultural relevance is either not there no more, gone down, or not existent. So someone like you comes in, helps the designs, helps the product placements, and you bring that cultural relevance back up. Mm-hmm. It happened with New Balance. Imagine you becoming, let's say, creative director of an LO Bean or something. Oh, baby. That would be fucking crazy. You know, but we just gotta put it out there. That'll be fire. I'll be. I think we have one in Garden City, right? We got a LO Bean in Garden City with the big boot outside.
Yeah.
I'll be out there every day, just after I hit the gym right there, LA Fitness, go to the LO Bean store. Mm. But man, and then let's keep it going with more questions. So, staying on fashion, what is your favorite brand? Do you have one favorite brand? Yes. You know what I'm saying? Other than, you know, without being biased, you know, the Bodega brand, but do you have one brand overall, all time?
It's gotta be Polo.
Ralph,
yeah.
Really? Mm-hmm. Why is that? What would you say? The essentialness of it, the old Polo?
I would say the range that they've always had. Like they've always been able to create like luxury suiting all the way down to like flight jackets and cargo pants, and everything looks like it's like at the top of whatever genre they're channeling. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's Western wear and cowboy hats and, you know, like I don't know. There's something about Polo that just, it has that range and adaptability, and it also like just references tradition and heritage in a way that like recontextualizes it and mixes it up enough where you could wear it and not look crazy. Yeah. Or look out of place. Like you kind of, like, I don't know, a Polo button down could like look one way wearing it with Jordans and cargo pants or whatever, and look a whole different way when you have it tucked in, but it's the same shirt. Yeah. You know, like, it just has that range that it's like, it's hard to explain the, like, appeal of it, but it's so, like...
Universal.
It's universal. Yeah, it's so universal, and it's just, like, can be dressed up, dressed down, and it's... I feel like it's really stuff that, if you look... Like, there's certain eras of Polo, which, you know, like, the big pony stuff, like, maybe that was like the biggest mistake, even though that was killing it for a certain period. But like, if you look 10 years back or 10 years ahead, like I still have Polo that I had in high school that I wear whenever I want, you know, and no one's like, damn, you're rocking that old, because it could be beat up. Yeah. And people can still appreciate it, you know, and it still looks like it's supposed to be wearing that patina or that level of being worn in almost, because it's quality stuff. I mean, I would say, I would have to say Polo's my favorite, just because it's been in my life the longest.
No USPA though, right? No USPA.
Nah, none of that, bro.
Never USPA over here.
No, sir.
Either Polo Sport, Ralph, or straight, you know what I'm saying? Straight Polo, but no USPA, which is crazy. I always think about that shit. Like, imagine if USPA ever became a thing, because recently...
They definitely trick people, though.
Mid ones became a thing.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's like, I never thought I'd see the day, but everyone's wearing mid ones, you know, but I'm like, yo, USPA.
How they wearing them, though?
They covering the mid?
They're covering the fact that they're mid. Let's keep it a
incognito.
Yo. Yeah, and USPA, man, they had some decent decent stuff. I'm not gonna lie.
Stop. Bro, stop. Stop.
That was like such a weird thing in school. Like, oh, he's wearing the USPA.
It's crazy because there's like, you go to like rent them, they got the Polo outlet, but there's a USPA outlet like the next aisle of stores or whatever.
Yeah.
I just don't know how they got away with it. I don't know what's going on.
How about sneakers? What's your top one sneaker overall,
one?
all time that it's like this is the best sneaker ever? In my opinion, mine is, for reference, I used to say the Jordan 1, the Bread, or like the Chicago, obviously the Chicago Classic colorway, but as of late, I've been like huge saying the Air Force 1 is like the best sneaker ever made. I've had a huge obsession with it like in the past like 3 to 4 years, like the Air Force 1 and the whole history of it. But what's your number one sneaker model ever made?
Sneaker or silhouette?
It could be both, like however you want to answer.
I was trying to make it easier for you. You know what I'm saying?
That's tough.
Because it could be a sneaker because of the silhouette, or it could be because of the colorway, but not because of the silhouette. What's like the number one?
Damn, it's tough. I gotta say 2 or 3.
Let's say top 3 then. Yeah.
I would say Air Max 95. Preferably like the neon or like one of the OG color where it's the gray gradient. You know, the gray layers with the pop color, whether it's the Volt or the orange.
Classic. Classic.
Air Max 95. Jordan 4, preferably the Bread 4. And that's just like a shoe that I had multiple times in my life. And I think that's why. And I would say it's like an unpopular one, I think, but the Bread 12s also are like a favorite because I had those like at different points in my life too, like middle school.
The Flu Games?
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't know, that shoe, it's almost like a boot kind of in how it fits, but it's always been something that I've loved. Like when I had them when I was young, probably like, I don't even know. I definitely didn't buy them myself, like 10, less than 10 years old. And then I had them again, like when I was at the end of middle school. And then I have them now too, but I don't wear them. But they're still just like one of my favorites just because of the connection to when I was younger.
That is true. When you break down the design of it, it's definitely a unique design. Like even the way the layer.
Even like I love the Jordan 13s too, and I feel like those are like no one cares for those anymore, really. But
I feel like as they do bad colorways of those.
Yeah, the He Got Game, like specifically the He Got Game ones are like so classic to me because when those dropped and that hologram in the back was such a like. That shit was crazy, like, when it dropped. I just remember looking at it like...
Isn't like Jordan's face one of them? Like
Jordan's face, and it had, like, the 23, I think, behind his face. And, but I just remember being a kid and just, like, looking at that. Like, just being mad close up to it. Like, whoa, that's crazy. Like, you move it around, and it kind of has the 3D nature to it.
Man, that was a moment in time. I remember, like, all that, like, especially during, like, the Cudi and Kanye influence of like the sneakers, wearing those retro Jordans, like the
like
beat up
sixes.
Woo.
Yeah.
I was a kid. I was like, I would die for a pair of those. I wanted them so bad. The infrared 6s and the Aqua 8s.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I got.
When I seen Cudi and Lupe, everyone wearing the Aqua 8s, I was like, oh my god, I need that fucking shoe.
Yeah.
But it's crazy looking back. Is like. It's so wild how we thought about all that shit so young, like being so obsessed with things that at the time didn't seem obtainable. But now it seems like people, unless you're like someone like you or like appreciators of that, people don't really care, especially if those specific shoes like Jordans right now is like, you can go in the store right now and find the latest release.
I mean, this the OGs that people really fuck with, you know what I'm saying? But the new shit that they be coming now is like rinse, recycle type of thing. It's like how Drew was talking, like a lot of his shoes, like he said, it has like 10 colors and stuff like that. And you've been seeing Nike dropping some dunks that have like 3 or 4 patches of different colors. Shit just looks fucking horrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy because that's the other thing, like with the shoe design stuff, it's like, it is easy to just throw mad colors on it, but it's hard to keep it in a wearable place and in like an accessible place where like people can feel it. And like my way of doing it kind of is toning it down with like neutral colors or black, grays, and whites, you know? So it's like,
Yeah.
If you notice, there's a lot of that going on, like wrapping the crazy colors. So it I don't know, it makes it more palatable where people aren't so intimidated by it. Because it's like I said, it's like, especially a shoe with a bunch of panels, it's like, yeah, you could slap whatever colors on it, but it's not necessarily like and that's I think that's what a lot of brands in the footwear space, like, because there's general release colorways that come out and you're just like, what the fuck? Like, they literally just threw some threw the colors around and did not think about how someone would wear it, you know? And that's like what I try to think about first, like, how is someone gonna wear this, and like what type of, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what I said, like, I think about people that are at Stay Silent events, and you know, and people that I see in the wild wearing Bodega stuff now. It's like, I want to keep going down that path and not, like, I don't know, just
randomly drop a bunch of neon jackets.
And I honestly hate when there's collaborations and it's like they do some shit where like they didn't necessarily need the collaborator to do it. There's a lot of that stuff going on right now.
Yeah.
Like the one color things.
They just threw the name. They just threw the name on, and it's
tough.
like,
I'm like,
he really.
Yeah, no, it happens. Is there ever been like a Bodega release or something that you were around for that was gonna be huge? Maybe them working with like this big artist, but never came to be like a big, like, you know, because we see all these, you know, obviously influential people throughout culture that have actual influence in, you know, actual sneakers and everything that drops. Was there ever a time when like Bodega was ever going to work with one of them, like a Kanye or anyone of that, you know, even realm at all, and just it never manifested?
Not that I know of. No, not that I know of, really. Like technically the first, what was supposed to be the first New Balance Bodega, like if you really look it up, you could find it. It never actually released. Like they released images of it and everything, but the shoe was kind of like a Huarache where it slips on, like the tongue's attached, and you couldn't, because of the material that they chose or that they made the upper, and there was something where you couldn't get your foot in the shoe. So Bodega refused to release it. And that was supposed to be, I think it was like I forget the model. It was something like derivative of the 574. It might have been like 576 or like some version of it. And that's the only time where like something was like straight cut out of the, you know? And even, I mean, when we were thinking about the Nike Dunk project, it was like initially in our heads, we were like, yo, like when we were first talking about it, like a year out or something, we were like, yo, we should really use a lot of Nike talent in the content, you know. We may have access to different people, but then our whole approach of like, you know, making it more of a commemorative moment from and like all those factors, it was kind of like, let's go
keep it more
this
personal.
direction, and like more heartfelt, and like because also some of that stuff at this point, it's like I just wonder the impact of some of that stuff, just like how much it actually moves the needle, because we're just like overwhelmed with that shit all day. Like it has to be very cleverly done. Like I hate seeing some stuff where it's like, you know, it's like a payday type of thing, you know, and it's like, yeah, they're getting paid to wear that, but like I thought there's a bunch of examples. I don't know why this came to mind at the forefront, but like Randy Moss being in like the Cactus Jack thing. Like,
I literally was thinking about that one.
That was dope because it was like unexpected. It was also like they had him like acting kind of in a role, you know, it like had these threads sense. Where it was like, okay, word. A lot of people lost their mind over what Jerry Seinfeld in,
that's true.
What's it called? What was that, Kith? Oh no, or ALD. It was one of them.
Was it? No, I think it was Kit.
Yeah, it was
I think it was Kit. It was Kit. Definitely, I think it was Kit. That shit was dope. I was like, wow. And but they obviously done a lot of.
They do a lot of that stuff in general, like the alignment with figures in the space. It's like,
especially New York based figures. Like they had the Jada Kiss, like they have like their hands with all those people out there. And I think Seinfeld's from New York. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure. But that shit was obviously beautiful. How about when it comes to Rhode Island fashion, what would be Drew's actual interpretation of it? What would you describe? How would you describe Rhode Island's fashion, especially from, because you're literally from here and you were creating ideas and wanting to become a designer in your early days here, and now looking at Rhode Island fashion, how would you describe Rhode Island fashion and its evolution?
I feel like that's a tough question, but I'm gonna do what I could do. I do feel like it's got I feel like it's got a long way to go, and I'm excited for the future, right? But because for there to really be a scene around fashion here, I think there needs to be there's not like the infrastructure to support it. So there's not like you would need retailers.
Yeah.
And granted, we have like Cure Collection, so I think that's a step in the direction. We have a lot of like other independent retailers that might help it get to a certain level in the future, which I'm very interested in. But talking about style, cause fashion, it's tough for me to put my fashion hat on, cause I'm not really I don't know. I don't study fashion. I'm not a fashion person. You know, fashion's just a tough word for me, cause even what I design for clothes, it's I want to wear stuff I'm comfortable in. It's casual. It's more everyday functionality behind it. When I think fashion, it's a little more lofty, dreamy, couture
you're not
style.
Sitting down studying runways. Or,
no,
you're not looking at Balenciaga's new runway. Or
it's I'll see the stuff that floats to the top, or things that have a certain impact. But talking about Rhode Island, in the fashion sense, I think stylistically, I'll say New England is unique. We have a unique perspective, and I think Rhode Island, Providence specifically, I think drafts off of New York more than a Boston. Because I feel in thinking about back to school, I feel it was, you got a fresh pair of Air Forces and Timberlands for sure, right? You would wear the Air Forces the first couple of nice months, and then it would be Timberland season because it's fall, winter. Facts. And that's New York shit right there. That's the New York combo pack or whatever you want to say. So I think we take that, but then we give it there's a little bit of a New England twist to it, and how we might style it up, or the other things we wear to complement it, whether it's fleeces from LL Bean, Patagonia, because those are New England-based brands, and even Timberland is technically New England based. It's New Hampshire, I think. Wow. Yeah. But so I think stylistically, we draft off of New York. We have a little bit of New England, Ivy League influence too, so there's it's influenced by academia, sports obviously have an influence. And this is talking about New England in general. But I think the biggest characteristic that we have to consider is just seasonality, and I'm interested in how people's style from here changes over the course of the four seasons, because the way people rock stuff and what they choose to wear in the summer is way different than the winter. You look like a whole different person beside, and that's what I'm interested in, those things that just distinguish us, because we need a level of functionality and durability and we don't know what the weather is going to be when we wake up every day. We don't have that luxury. LA, it's it's going to be pretty nice out every day. You don't have to put too much thought into, we're used to waking up and looking at the weather before we go outside. That's not normal everywhere. So I don't know, it's all these things. And when I think about New England, I see brands from other places referencing heritage brands that are from here. And it's ALD, a lot of their style and swag is New England with a New York, downtown New York,
touch,
little douchey, tweak to it, with the whatever. But, and that's something that I've just even with Bodega design, it's I'm trying to represent New England as a whole, being from here. And it's it's bigger. Yeah, we're in Rhode Island and stuff, but when you think about just all the things that have come from the region and southeastern New England, Two, it's like there's just so much to draft off of and history in clothing and garments and manufacturing and all these things. But we don't have a brand that necessarily, there's brands from here that are local that I fuck with, of course, but there's no one that's necessarily like, that's not a big part of their visual dialogue or language, you know?
No, 100%, especially not something that's been here for like a decade plus or something like established, and then everyone from everywhere knows, or actual creating, you know, cultural fucking impact. But Bodega obviously is. But then, you know, because I remember when Jay had to like referenced you, and it's like a lot of people were like debating about that, like the Rhode Island fashion. But it's like, you are from Rhode Island, you're from Providence, but like you said, you are obviously in Boston. Bodega's from Boston. The creations are coming out of Boston. So like out here, we don't have that, you know. But is there a future where that is even a possibility? I know you've played with the idea. I don't know if you want to talk about it, but you've talked about it in the past with me of maybe that being one of your dreams of creating that sort of actual establishment. I always toyed with the idea of like, that would be fire if we literally just had, you know, they're opening bodegas at other places, maybe like a Bodega, Rhode Island, or something like that. Just another integration of something that already got established, or maybe starting from scratch. You know, doing like a full on new thing. Like, have you, you know, heard of anything behind the scenes, or are you maybe gonna be a part of something that you want to manifest to make that happen out here?
It's definitely always been on my mind. Like, I definitely want to get to a place where I am able to do that, because there's like a lot of factors that go into those thoughts that I have about it. And one of the things is like, you know, we got food options up and down, left and right, covered. Like, no one else needs to, you know, come into that space. The nightlife shit is dope. You talked about it with Jay. We got all the options, from the hookah spots to the strip clubs to the stay silent functions, like to low key. There's like a lot of different things. The salon, like there's options. So definitely. That's covered.
That's covered for sure.
But we don't have like, and then for me, it's like, music is like still to be determined. You know, things are happening. People are making it through, but it's not established and like cemented. And I feel the same way about the fashion space, and like the retail idea on top of that is still wide open. And I definitely do eventually want to get there where I'm able to like open up a spot. Just because like I saw what happened, even us having that, we still do have it, but our space trade, and when we were actually actively doing things in there, just the way it was supported, even though people were confused about its purpose at first, you know, because when trade started,
the trade pop-up, it was like in East Providence, for those who don't know.
Yeah, when that started, it was like the idea of pop-ups was like definitely new for Providence.
Hell yeah.
And Rhode Island probably.
It wasn't happening out here.
But it's like, it's interesting to see how that, like, over the years that we were active there, like it cultivated its own little community and following and people that were frequented it and all these things. So like space in general is important, and space like outside of the club where people can come together and like talk about shit. And that's the biggest thing that I think Bodega has done for Boston, is be that space where like, it almost has that barbershop energy where it's like, yeah, you're going there maybe to like, like you're not necessarily going there to buy something. It's like conversational. Like you're stopping in because you're driving by it and you're like, fuck it, let me see who's over there. I gotta talk about this song that just dropped. Or like Kanye's bugging. Like I gotta go to Bodega and like talk shit, you know, and just like catch up with people. But I've just seen how it's become like that fertile ground for shit to happen, people to connect.
A little hub.
Yeah, and it's dope because I think what's happening is like in these other areas we have things that are at a level and a standard that are good and great for anywhere it could be happening, whether it's stay silent events. Like it's not just good for Providence. It's not just like, oh yeah, that's good for happening in Rhode Island, or that's good for New England, like whatever. Like I'm in New York. It's like, no, the shit they do is at a high level no matter where it would happen. And it's like a similar thing is like I went to Lawrence recently for this film screening called Rah Rah Renee, and it essentially was a film that was put together for these bags that the homie Renee made. He actually lives out here now, but he's from Lowell, and he lives in Providence. He makes these like beautiful bags, like tote bag style. And a couple creatives, Adriel and Matt from Lawrence, took it upon themselves to like make a bigger moment of these bags by creating this film. And it's a series of like, it's a series of not snippets. What's the right word in film for like it's escaping me.
Mini series?
No, it's just like all these little short clips. It's like short clips.
Short films. Episodic.
I don't know. I'll think of it. But anyways, they did this thing. It was a film screening, but they built out this whole space, this spot called Concept 6 in Lowell, and the whole build out was crazy. Like they installed like these walls that looked like brick, and they had people tag the walls, and then they hung like props that were in the film up on the wall. Like it was like very much like a gallery, very immersive.
Yeah.
And all this stuff. And I'm just like, yo, this is crazy because this could be in any city. This could be in LA and like hold a candle to like any established creative that's in this, doing a film screening. Yeah. Like it just happens to be happening in Lowell.
Quality shit, yeah.
Yeah, but and I think that's what's dope right now is everyone, even this, it's like the level that you produce this at. It sets the standard.
I appreciate it.
And it makes it like it makes the younger people, like that's like their floor almost. Like they're starting out where they got to step into this. Whereas like when I like felt like I wanted to pursue design and stuff, like I didn't necessarily have a place that I went to or like where I was able to see something at a level that was really like
more
high
obtainable.
level shit.
Is high level but still obtainable, because when you see it where it's like coming from somewhere that you're from, especially out of here, New England, let alone the smallest state in the country, Rhode Island, people, for the majority, even if they're creators, they have a sense of like lack of confidence, or they don't have examples really to like follow. And if they do, it'll be maybe too high in their opinion to obtain. Like you got to go straight to like a Kanye or these people that people already know in the whole world. But someone like you comes into hand, or a Bodega in general, and people out here like ourselves creating this podcast platform, this media company, and then people see like, oh shit, it's quality, it's dope, I can do that too, because they're from here, they're doing it here. You know what I'm saying? Because you obviously Bodega's in Boston, but you're here all the time still, you're out here absolutely all the time, so they see like it's obtainable. So I think that's a key thing, where a lot of people, we definitely had the opportunity to, we say all the time, and we chose not to like potentially, go to LA, move to LA and chase the quote unquote bag or whatever the case may be. And you're in a position that you could do that. You could have done that years ago. You could do that at any point, especially
it definitely
now
crossed my
where
mind.
there's like a LA store literally now. You can literally do that. But then we see the importance of staying home and the influence that you have out here, especially where it's like, it's always been a cool thing to kind of do what everyone else is not doing. So out here, as if we're always the underdogs, Rhode Island and stuff, we're always going to have cool factors, cool traits, because with underdogs, people don't know us. It's like, it's going to be new to everyone else, even though we're tired of it, we're used to it, but it's always new. Like people don't, like every time I post, like when this goes up, people are going to be like, what? The guy from Bodega is, what? He's from Providence, Rhode Island? Like what? Yeah. People don't be knowing. Like
no,
I get people come up to me in the streets all the time. They're like, I didn't even know that we had a player in the Nets. I didn't know that we had a player in the Colts.
Well, that's the crazy other shit that's happening right now.
Yeah. Sports.
Like
the sports world.
Yeah, Jeremy Pena.
Yeah, yesterday, literally.
Like David crazy. Duke, what's his name? Quiddy Pay. Like we've had people in the league, in all the leagues, but they haven't been like
impactful
in the league and starting and young and like playing, and they're so that's like another thing that I think is boosting the relevance of Providence. I also think, Stay Silent is a big part in that. With a lot of people's entry point and introduction is Stay Silent. Yeah, like 100%. These kids from Lawrence, Lowell, Boston, Brockton, it's like
people in the mix, especially.
And then it's crazy because then I'll get hit up like you know, they might go to Datro as their first thing. And then a couple weeks later, there's Love You Better or something. And then they're like, they end up going to that. Oh, that was fire, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, yo, I'm coming to Providence for the day. Like, where are good places to eat? You know, and it keeps, like, progressing where they're like, you know, it's like they've already seen what they saw or what they've already experienced.
Their world. So
yeah, exactly. And they're just like, oh,
new
shit.
world.
Like, yeah, yo, like, have all these options. There's things happening. There's a lot of flexibility here that, like, places like Boston don't have, you
100%.
know?
100%.
And I think that it just starts something. Like, even to now, Boston, a lot of people are getting priced out of Boston. And a lot of people are hitting me up like, yo, I might move to Pawtucket. I might move to Providence. Like, yo, it's getting crazy up here. And, like, some people, like my boy Ricky, the art director at Bodega, lives in Rhode Island now.
Wow.
Too. And he's been here. He, like, bought a house out here.
Wow.
So, and I just mentioned the kid Renee. It's like, and now those people, it's like they're hosting their people from back home out here. They're able to introduce. It's just like, I've never met anyone that I've introduced to the city that's been like,
this shit's trash.
yeah, what am I doing here type
Why
thing.
do you live here?
And we just have this, like, there's this thing, like, I worked on this, like, book called Feels Like Home with some friends, and we're working on a new one, but I put something I, like, made up this fabric called, like, Resilience Fabric. Resilient Fabrics or something, like a brand of fabric. And I was saying it's like the fabric of New England or whatever. And,
hard, yeah.
And it's like, what we have, especially in Rhode Island, it's like, yo, in 40 minutes, you could drive from the woods, through the hood, by the airport, through some farmland, and end up at, like, one of the most beautiful beaches on this side of the country in 45 minutes. And it's like,
maybe even less if there's no traffic.
yo, seriously. And that's, like, not normal. Especially when you travel across the middle of the country. Like, there's not shit but Chicago, you know? And, like, outside of that, I don't know much. But it's just, I think that's, like, the strength and, like, the, just, like, living in an environment like this that can be so dynamic where you could just switch where you're at. And 100%. You could go to, like, the polar opposite of where you're standing right now, you know? You could, like, I don't know, be in, like, Barrington, buy some mansions and, you know, whatever, drive downtown or go, like, drive for 15 minutes, go to Broad Street and get some of the most fire Dominican food or whatever.
Facts, made fresh right there.
Yeah, and it's like, that's not true.
Everywhere else.
Yeah, it's not. So I think that's, like, our biggest strength, and just, the concentration of culture in this area. It's like, I think people really underestimate it, because when I say I'm from Rhode Island, or when I've said I'm from Rhode Island, there's been people over the years where it's like, oh, there are even, like, black people out there, or, like, and I'm like, that is crazy.
I think there's, like, no culture, really.
Yeah, nothing.
It's
and
just people living.
That's the problem, because we don't have that that creative identity. Boston's the same thing. The way they're represented in the media is very opposite of the Boston that I've come to know in spending the time I spent out there, you know? So, yeah, it's important for people like yourself, like us, to, like, do these things at a certain level, so it's, like, to make people pay attention. Because if it's not at that level, it's just they're going to skip over it. Like, yeah, what's 100%. Going on over there?
And speaking of, when it comes to, you know, yourself, you are from Providence, Rhode Island. You're a designer from Providence, Rhode Island. You've created sneaker collaborations that have impacted the culture, impacted style and fashion decisions of multiple brands and multiple other, you know, even designers and just culture. You've worked with Nike. You've done, you know, multiple Dunks. You've done multiple New Balances. What is your advice for someone that might be from Providence, Rhode Island, coming up, might be a designer, might be into fashion, and they don't know what to do or where to start? What is your advice to them, your key advice?
I would say I got a couple of things, tidbits of ideas and stuff, but one thing is, like, always take the stairs. So kind of, you know, there's, like, no shortcut to it. And I've had so many conversations with, like, young people, even at Bodega, where they're like, yo, Drew, I'm trying to, like, design here. And and they're like, how do I? And I'm like, damn, it's hard for me to tell people, because path was so non-traditional almost, and I'm like, you know, and one of the first things I'll say is like, yo, are you willing to like stick around for 8 years? And then they're like, hell no, nah,
I want that shit tonight.
Yeah, and I'm just like, yo, then I can't really tell you, like,
Right.
I could share like information with you. I'm always down to share information with whoever. Like people DM me, and I'm just like, whatever. I don't care about the information. I could give you the information, but you have to like, to that question, you just have to like be, you know, you'd have to be like, yeah, to really sell the fact that you want it in the first, or like to really know you want it in the first place. You know what I'm saying? So always take the stairs, because there's no shortcut to getting to where you want to be. You know, you really have to like go step by step. And yeah, so that's one aspect, or one piece of advice. The other piece would be to like put yourself in rooms that complement what you're trying to do. Like I came into Bodega I knew I wanted to work in that space, but I didn't want to do e-commerce, whatever I was doing for the first like 3 years, 4 years, you know? But I was just like, let me get my foot in the door. And it's like, I've seen it happen with other homies that have moved to LA. Like my boy Zumo, like he was like the studio manager at this world-renowned like studio in LA. And he back here, he's a musician. He is a musician. He makes music, raps, all that stuff. But he took that job as a studio manager, and now, fast forward a few years, and he's like credited on the mixing, mastering, or production of Dr. Dre's last album. And it's the same studio, like, you know, that studio, it was recorded there. But all that, and the same thing, even we were talking about Sir, part of his story is like he worked at a music store, and he developed a connection with someone that was like, hey, that like over time at that store, where it eventually turned out they're like, yo, you want to come to the studio tonight? And that like
blossomed to something bigger than he expected.
Because he just put himself in the space to like learn about the equipment, what equipment creates what sound, you know. And then it's like all that stuff, you might not think it's like leading into a bigger understanding or play in the space, but it gives you like a more solid foundation. It puts you in a position to be able to talk to people you might not be able, like Sir might not have had contact with this recording artist or whoever it was if he was not working in a music store, you know? So it's it wouldn't make sense if you like want to be a designer and then you're like working at a restaurant, you know. At least like you take a step to get into a space, whether it's like a gallery, like holding down a gallery in some way and working for it, or a museum. I don't know. There's just ways you have to go about using what's available in proximity to you. And like for me, even looking at it, it's like I had those handful of things that I applied to. It was like Concepts, Bodega, and Society, which was Karmaloop. But it was all in that same
world. Yeah,
exactly. And, you know, if that didn't pan out, I would have found somewhere else that was in a similar space. Or maybe I would have been like, yo, fuck it, I'm going to take an internship with like an architect firm or like something else that could help just give me a solid foundation, understand the tools, understand the market more. And that's like, essentially I went from like a marketing e-commerce role, responding to people on social media for Bodega, to like creating the product that they would buy. So I had a real understanding and grasp on the customer, because I was like interfacing with them more directly in my roles before. And yeah, it kind of like built up to this moment. It's not like, I don't know, you need other people, like there's like, you need to put yourself in the place, and sometimes it's like other people are the ones that like help you get to that next level, you know?
Hell yeah. You got to open a door sometimes that you're scared to open, because once you open it, it's going to lead you to a bunch of other doors. You know, I think a lot of people get scared of taking that first step, literally opening that first door, you know, especially, you hear it all the time. Like, it's like a common story. Even if you ask your parents, like a lot of times we ask our parents or our grandparents, and it's like, it'll be stuff that you would never even realize. And like, they ended up doing whatever they did, but then it's like, oh yeah, I used to be in a band, or I used to be a singer, or I used to, you know, I wanted to be an actress and this and that. But maybe they just, you know, it wasn't their time, but at the same time, they didn't take that leap that we, this generation and new generations are, more brave to take, opening that door, taking the stairs, potentially, like you said.
Patience. With the whole taking this, it's just like patience. And I feel like this generation, it's like.
They need that.
Very much impatient.
Man, they think that this fly-by-night shit is, they don't realize a lot of that shit is luck. I'm not gonna lie, I do believe that a lot of stuff that happens is luck, but then it ends up being proven within time. Like how J. Cole had that whole, what was that message of like, basically, it's on the Drake album, that little quote, you're here today and gone tomorrow. But like that idea of like, trying to be microwavable, but then you realize like, are you really happy there when like you look, you know what I'm saying? Like 10 years later, are you still around? Are you still as impactful? Are you still creating, actual, relevance as you did when you first came into the situation? But it was like, they probably just, they fucked up. They didn't actually follow their true, real deal passion. But, out of here, I think as long as we have creators like us and you, I think they'll be in good hands. Rhode Islanders, Providencers, will be in good hands. Fear not. But yeah, man. Any last words from yourself, Marlon? Anyone? Any last words? I think it was amazing conversation.
That shit was fire, bro. Shit was fire. Definitely appreciated you coming through, bro, and listening to you and seeing how your journey was and shit like that. Shit. I'm like pumped up to go do my own shit.
Let's go. No, I just want to say thank you to you guys for like inviting me.
100%.
I feel like it's been not a long time coming, but I've always wanted to, chop it up with y'all on here. So it feels good and I appreciate it.
Listen, I'm excited. Can't wait for the response from this. Get some. I think nothing controversial.
No? Nah. And if anyone's butthurt, they can suck a dick.
Yeah, I think we did great, but we appreciate it. That's Drew, and this is Cap.
They gon' love me for my ambition.